Diversity was something I had never experienced. Every time I looked at my peers, neighbors, and friends, we looked the same. Our heritage was the same, our traditions were the same. It was this homogeneous culture that I thought tied me to my community. We are told that as Jews, as less than 0.02% of the world population, we must stick together, that we get married to each other, raise our children with our traditions, and support Jewish education. But could that be harmful? Could the shock of diversity that comes from the realities of the real world shatter the perceptions that I have towards my identity? Could our insulation cause us to be strangers in our larger community? I never considered that it is because of diversity that allows my community to interact and be accepted by those different than ourselves, teaching and learning from one another.
Susie Stewart discussed this by saying, diversity is what we need. Every belief and every religion we need to understand. This country, this world, is not made up of all the same-minded people. We may not agree with others' beliefs, political views, or have the same religious beliefs. But I think it's important to at least hear them and understand others so we can understand how society can compromise and fit in together. If we live in an insular community, then it's not the real world. The real world is not made up of one type of people, thankfully. It would be boring to not have varied discussion or to have all the same history or experience and to have no new viewpoint to see. Granted, we all wish politically everyone felt the same we do, but in reality, that's never going to be possible. Diversity makes us more open-minded, open-hearted, compassionate, and fulfilled.
Growing up, I always considered myself surrounded by a diverse community. All of my friends belonged to different races, religions, and heritages from all over the world. I almost felt as if I was living in a different country. All of my friends immigrated from different countries across the world, ranging from Paraguay, Belize, El Salvador, Spain, and Germany. Although we all came from different backgrounds, the way we went about our everyday lives were very similar. We all went to the same school, played on the same basketball and soccer teams, were involved in the same clubs. We were all members of a wider circle club and super school club, and we never had to worry about making ends meet or having food on our table. It did not become evident to me of our lack of exposure to the outside world and those who were different from me until I started volunteering. Volunteering has allowed me to be engaged with those that are very different from myself and allow me to interact and learn from people with different perspectives from my own. Through the act of volunteering, I have expanded the friendships I have made and developed close relationships with people I never would have initially considered part of my community, but now feel a close bond with and consider everyone to be a part of my own community. Could volunteering be the bridge to bind people who were once strangers together to become part of a close-knit community?
Susie sees many volunteers who seem a little nervous, not knowing what sorts of personalities they are going to encounter for a meal service. They've had no interaction with the homeless community, and there's a bit of stigma surrounding them, fear of the unknown. But quickly, they realize that they are people, just like us, simply with different circumstances. Intelligent, experienced, funny, kind, but often hard times have fallen on them, or mental illness has affected their life path. Some people they serve might require more patience or more understanding, or even firm directions, but they are all just people.
I believe that one of the major forces and reason for people to join communities is that they want to find people who share common interests with them. It could be an interest in sports, music, history, or reading, but it's these common interests that connect us to others and create communities. When I was in high school at the end of my freshman year, I was a very reserved person with little interest in joining any groups, preferring to be by myself and a small group of friends. That was the plan until my music teacher came to me and asked if I wanted to join the band. At first I was a firm no, but then he persuaded me. He said he had seen me practice and play and said he really wanted me to join his band and believed I would do well in it. I then chose to join, not initially for the prospect of meeting people, but for the music. I didn't have a burning interest in mingling and becoming friends with those who were already in the band or were going to be new like me, but to learn, listen, and play music, which is and was a major part of my life. It had brought many opportunities to meet and experience many different people of different backgrounds. With my band, I went to Washington, D.C. to perform at the National Memorial Parade on the national stage. I stepped out of my comfort zone by taking a leadership role as section leader. I learned to lead and work well with a unique individual within my section. I work closely with people that I would never have known if it wasn't for the band bringing us together as a community. Even someone like me, a most reserved recluse, who cannot help but embrace this amazing community. You can look at any other community, like the football community, music community, and very voluntary communities, and any other community really, they get the same answer. That they interested and love what they do is one of the major driving forces that pull them into that community. Asking the athlete or musician, what was the original reason for doing what they do? Most likely than not, it is going to be their love for the craft. It is this love what we have and what we do that brings communities together. Even when there is division within the community. For example, back in my high school, we went through a school merge and the band students from both school merged schools were hostile to each other. They had arguments, there were a lot of controversy at the beginning of the year. But as the year went on, as we played performance after performance, we began to grow together as a community and became one.
I understand the feelings of anxiety towards the unknown that the volunteers at food gatherers Susie mentioned felt. As a Jew, my values of tikkun olam, repairing the world, drives my need for community service. Yet it also does something else. Service brings people together, allowing for diverse groups to understand and accept each other. Service forces those of different backgrounds and identities to interact with each other, ensuring that no person is a stranger, no community is a stranger, and that what we fear most does not exist within our society. It is through service, I think, that we begin to understand that we are citizens of the world, one large community of more than 7 billion individuals.
Volunteering has not only shown me the impact an individual can have in a community, but also how volunteering can create a community itself. Throughout the years, I would always bring my close friends, who I considered a part of my own community, to come volunteer with me. I already had an established community, and our intentions of volunteering was purely to help those less fortunate than us, and we didn't think any further than that. To my surprise, as the weekly trips to the warehouse continued, I realized that much more was taking place than our initial intention of helping others. We were helping ourselves as well. Through building and developing relationships with other people different from ourselves, we created a larger, more diverse community. Working with a group of people to achieve a shared goal has the power to bring people together as one rather than focusing on the differences of each individual. I had always known about the issues surrounding poverty, but putting human faces to the problem triggered something within me. I realized that poverty is not just a headline on the news, but rather affecting actual human lives. This illustrated the authenticity and realness surrounding poverty.
Looking at Food Gatherers, a nonprofit volunteering group that helps those with food insecurity in Washington County, I noticed that it made a wide variety of people. From our conversation with Susie, we learned that the organization made a plethora of people who come from different racial and economic backgrounds and who differ widely in age. Yet, they had a similar goal, wanting to volunteer to try to make and do something impactful to people. It is these common interests that force community as we see them, keeping connections among them strong. As a musician, I learned how the common interest can make people come together for a common cause. Being a part of the band is to be able to put together many different parts, people, and pieces together into a singular voice or song that can impact someone. It is this want and drive to create and execute something impactful that brings people together into one group.
We all are good. Generally, we're good inside. And that's the thing that connects us, is that we all want to belong and want to be inviting to our community. I think if everyone stops and just, and this is what has gotten me through a lot of turmoil in the past couple of years, I just have to stop and think, like, that is a human being, and they were born, blank slate, good person. So there's got to be good in there somewhere. And that's just like the only way I've been able to sort of get along with everyone. What I have always told my kids, like, they get stuck doing their own thing, and then we'll talk about like volunteerism, and what always comes back is like they're busy and they have a million excuses and blah blah blah, and then they go and they volunteer. They either come home for a holiday and they come with me, or they do something in their own community, and they feel so good they are glowing. I mean, they just like they feel so good. And I just feel like if everybody did a little bit of volunteering, I mean, there's so many volunteer opportunities. It's not just feeding the homeless. If people just did one of them a month, I think that they would feel really good about themselves and about their community. And that's what I think would turn. I feel like maybe that's what could turn even these small little towns around. Like, they get so insular, but if they see their world, they would feel good about themselves and in turn feel good about the future and about the world around them.